Today I have the pleasure of talking to my father, Greg Bell, who is the co-principal of the Ray White Service Paradise business. So Dad, tell me how you got started and why you chose to have a career in real estate.
Oh, look, firstly, thank you. To be interviewed by your daughter, it's unique, so I'm getting a buzz out of this already. But look, Olivia, I go back to leaving school. I went to boarding school, and leaving school, I didn't really have an idea what I wanted to do. I had some rough ideas, but I put it down to fate. My brother Andrew, who's co-principal of the Ray White Service Paradise Group with us, he was in real estate, my cousin was. I just decided I'd have a crack at real estate. My father said, you got to work in a bank. And just to keep him quiet, I went and did a bank exam, and I walked out of that and looked up in the sky in Sydney and said, there's no way I'm going to work in a bank, I'll go get a job. So I went door knocking, which you've got to do in real estate. And I knocked on 20 real estate offices, and on the 21st one, someone said, yeah, look, start tomorrow. So I didn't really sit back and think. What I wanted by that stage is just a job that I could really start earning some money and get on with life. So I didn't really have an ambition to go to uni. And it all turned out to be the very best in the long run. So I started the next day, and when you start in real estate, you've got to be prepared to start at the bottom. So I was bank boy, lunch boy, morning tea boy, mail boy, any other boy you could think of. And my brother and myself, Andrew, we didn't inherit anything in real estate. Our father was completely in another industry, which he used to make bike seats, Bell bike seats. So we didn't come from a real estate background. Where we are today is purely based on Andrew and myself and what effort we put in to be where we are. So getting that grounding, because my first job was with a company that had been around since 1888. And one of the directors was a very old man, and he was the son of the original. And he had all the values in which he taught me. And I started to get a little bit restless. I was in property management by this stage. I'd started leasing flats, and then I went straight into being a property manager, residential. So I've got a big, long background in that. Then one day Andrew had gone out on his own and said, Greg, why don't you come and work with me? Which I did, and I joined him. And that was in 1980, September. So I started with Andrew, and you know, after 6 months, he said, you can buy half the business if you choose to, and he sold to me for $1. So we were partners in Andrew Bell Real Estate in downtown Kensington, in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And that's how it all sort of started. But looking back now, I think it's the greatest career you could ever get, because there's no limit to what you can earn with your ability. And it's just a people's business. And if you're good with people skills, you're going to be good in real estate. In 1982, we had a gentleman called Sandy Barr, who was with an American franchise called ERA, called into the office and wanted us to join a franchise. We're an independent, so we really tossed and turned. It took us 6 months, maybe longer, to make the decision, but we became ERA, Andrew Bell Real Estate. And we had to wear blue jackets, and you know, we started to get pretty serious in 82 about let's get on and get selling. And we really started to grow the business. So we put a salesperson on, we got a receptionist, and you know, we turned up early and we finished late, and you know, that went on. And then the Ray White Group came along in 85 and bought ERA out. So we were introduced to the Ray White family in 85, and here we are in 2018, and we're the strongest believers in that brand and that family of all time. So it's been a wonderful association, and it's really enhanced our career and our opportunities, which I'll cover in a moment. But owning my own business at the age of 21, it was, you know, I didn't plan to be an owner, just land in your lap, because why? You work hard and good things happen. We did our first in-rooms auction in May of 85. We had 4 properties. We sold one before, 2 under the hammer, and one about an hour afterwards. So we said, how long's this been going on? So we've actually auctioned every month, bar one, right through to today, every month doing in-rooms auctions. So we're really built a business. We went on to then acquire the office at Maroubra of Ray White, and we changed the branding from ERA Andrew Bell to Ray White in 87. And when we opened an office at Elizabeth Bay, so we had 3 offices in the eastern suburbs. And again, we were just auctioning, building a rent roll. We built a fabulous business. And, we were up to probably 40 odd people working in the company. We had started our charity balls in Sydney. Look, then miraculously in 1989, in November it was, we got a phone call from corporate office saying the gentleman who owned Ray White Service Paradise, he's been injured in an accident and he's decided to sell the business. Would you be interested? So that was a Wednesday. We were up here on the Saturday and we bought it 8 days later. And matter of fact, you were born about the same time in December '89. So we moved to the Gold Coast at that time.
So tell me a little bit about that, how you worked your way up once you bought the business.
Oh, look, it comes down to being persistent. There's a lot of knocks that you get in this industry, and I would assume many other industries. We're in the rejection business. We're in the numbers game. Call it what you want. You just can't stop. You phone 10 people and you get one who might say yes, you might get none. If you phone 100, you might get 10. So it's about, there is no such place as I've made it, and always understand that. You never get ahead of yourself and think, gee whiz, I'm the best, because there's always someone better. And there's always, once you've hit that target, there's another and another and another. So the journey doesn't stop. It's an adventure, and you've got to treat it as, your life. It's not a career. It's passionate about being alive and being in real estate. And then the fact that we can provide our clients with quality service is probably one of the most enlightening and appreciative parts of the industry. So whether it's our landlords or it's our buyers and sellers, it doesn't matter. We're really, really focused on providing great customer service, and with that sort of good karma and putting the client first, the business always took care of itself. But what I must say is you just got to keep going, and you can't take no for an answer, and you can't, every day you wake up, no matter what's happened the day before, you've just got to keep going, because you've got to have the belief that things are going to get better the next day and the next day, and away you go.
So where to from here?
Well, look, we moved to Surface, and there were some giants in the industry, Max Christmas, PRD, and Ray White was down here. And look, again, we were told, you guys from Sydney will won't last 3 months. Well, 28 years later, here we are. Again, it's just persistence and just belief, strength, strong willpower. You're walking, you get flattened, you wake up bruised and battered, but you just get up and you just know, I've got to keep going. And that has always been the secret to, you have some disasters, but you have some very good times. And just stick to the principle, which we have always do the right thing in life, and life will always do the right thing back. And that's kept us. So we grew from there, from 37 odd people to today just under 300. And we have a number of outlets here on the Gold Coast. We have a rent roll, commercially and resi, combined of up around 3,000 tenancies, and we turn over on average around 100 million a month in turnover in sales and leasing, commercial leasing that is. On average for the lot of last year and presently this year, we're having record-breaking months. But do we sit back and say, gee, we've made it? No way. There's so much more to develop. We want to get tenancies up to 5,000. We want to build our project marketing, which is really in a well-positioned place at the moment. We know we've got work to do in our resi areas. We know we've got work to do in our commercial. It's about recruiting good people. It's about getting the people that we have to continue to love working at Ray White, so it's retention. There is no such place, as I've said, as that's it. It's just about continuing to develop. Andrew and I are very advanced. I've been in the industry 40 years, and I can see myself another 10, 15. There is no word retirement, or it's not even on the agenda. So where to? We've got an office in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. So with the White family, we're looking at expanding in 2019, right into the US market in terms of property management and eventually sales. We need to push into Asia further. We have operations in China at the moment. But, we've got the marine business. We want to grow that on a franchise and a national basis. But there's other areas, management rights, hospitality, just developing what we've got and just ensuring that they become market leaders or stay market leaders. And, there's no reason why our event auction can't be 200 properties. There's no reason why we can't be writing 250 million a month. There's no reason for anything. The only obstacle is ourselves and our beliefs. So Andrew and I do not have any limitations on where we want to go. We know exactly where we're going with this business and we're going to achieve it.
So what advice would you have for someone who's wanting to start their real estate career?
Take all the fear that you have about the industry and throw it out. Go in there and just give it your very best. Always put the client first. Understand things that won't always go your way. Understand that, you will have moments that and what am I doing? Why am I here? You've got to have the strength and the willpower to get over that. You have to work long hours. You have to train. You have to have an attitude, I will, and not I can't. You have to just keep striving and setting goals and believing in yourself. And, weekends have got to be devoted to real estate. You've got to set an aspiration where you want to be in 10, 15, 20 years' time and go for it. Now, I know that they're hard goals to achieve, but anybody can be a good real estate agent if they've got good communication skills, if they know how to relate to people, if they have a very, very high level of integrity and customer service. What you really need is to have a lot of firepower and fuel, because they are long hours and, there's sacrifices that have got to be made. But if you can master all of that and learn and be humble and grateful for what you get, instead of having some idea that you are the king, the guru, there is no such thing as a guru.
So Dad, just give me an idea of what you think of the Gold Coast in terms of real estate right now.
Look, Andrew and I have been 28 years on the Gold Coast and we've lived and breathed so many ups and very few ups and a lot of downs, certainly the GFC. The Gold Coast is poised so well in terms of population growth, the economy, in terms of infrastructure that's been poured in as a result of government investment, particularly around the Commonwealth Games. The spotlight been on the Gold Coast for a long time now, and we're seeing the results of that in our real estate industry. We represent marvellous buying and opportunity for interstate buyers, particularly in overheated markets like Sydney, Melbourne. I only see an upside on the Gold Coast. We've got still record rate interest rates at low levels. We've got modern apartments under construction. We live in the very, very best place on the planet, and that's a fact. It may have its limitations, but for families and for retirees and for businesses, it's a marvellous environment to live. Traffic congestions here compared to interstate are just nothing. I live 100 metres to a beach, as you do. Just the getting up in the mornings and just living in this place is exciting, and people around this country and from overseas identify that. Our tourist numbers are up, particularly from Asia. Our interstate migration from retirees cashing up and coming up here buying lifestyle. For young families down south, finding it difficult to smash into the real estate market, saying there's really good growth and opportunities for jobs and to buy quality properties at far less than they would in Melbourne and Sydney. So I only see upside, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. Both Andrew and I just are strong believers in the Gold Coast, the economy and everything about it. So if you're asking a person who converted, the Commonwealth Games are going to be an enhancement long term for the Gold Coast in terms of real estate. What will benefit is restaurants and Uber, taxis and accommodation and airlines and all of that. And people are going to come to this city and just realise the beauty of it. And, we long term will benefit so much. So It's 10 out of 10 for growth on the Gold Coast.
So my last question is for you. Tell me about how real estate has changed since you started in the 80s. Have there been any significant differences between now and then?
Look, technology has changed the industry enormously. The principles of our industry haven't changed. It's a people's business. You have to pick up phones and talk to people. There's still signs on properties. They were there 30 years ago. You can still door knock. There's changes around Privacy Act and so on, which slow you down in some areas. You still do open homes. Auctions haven't changed. What has changed is the speed of communication and how you market properties. You know, we didn't have realestate.com or domain. We didn't have Real Commercial. We didn't have internet sites, and we didn't have mobile phones that could do the tricks it can do today. We didn't have all the different apps that make our industry a lot faster and a lot more competitive. And we now have a lot of industry disturbers, as we come and talk about, are coming into our marketplace, which is changing the face of how real estate is marketed. But in terms of getting sold, things haven't changed. There's a buyer for everything and there's a seller for a lot. Sellers come to you and say, I want to sell, and a buyer comes and says, I'd like to buy it. So the transaction itself hasn't changed. It's just the technology. And I can just see the changes in the technology getting faster and faster and faster. Do I see a place for real estate agencies in the future? Absolutely. A lot of people do not want to deal with a buyer if they're selling their home. They don't want to do open homes. They're happy to pay a handsome commission for a job well done. And an agent knows through the auction process or creating competition that they can get and extract the very best price for that vendor, and that's irreplaceable. So I can't see the industry changing in terms of how it's done and communication at all. I just see it speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. So how it's going to be in 10 years' time, well, who knows? But I couldn't have answered that 10 years ago. What I do know is we've got to get on with, and I'm not waiting 10 years to find out, so we've got to get on and get a lot of work done in the meantime. Liv, it's been a pleasure to have been interviewed by my daughter.
Thank you, Dad. It's been
Liv
a pleasure to interview
plays
you.
an integral part in our commercial property management area, and love her dearly, and it's just great for both Andrew and I to have our children working in our business. We're very proud of it. So thank you.
Thank you.